My name is Clara Morrison, and I'm 36 years old. At 11:43 a.m. on a Tuesday, while a spreadsheet blinked like a tired lighthouse on my second monitor and a cup of black coffee cooled into something bitterer than necessary, my phone lit up with a message that changed the temperature of the room. Liam, we should talk, but I'll be direct. I can't do this anymore. You're safe. Too safe. Predictable. I need a life that moves faster. We're done. For a full breath, I didn't understand the words. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, a few cells still waiting for the quarter's write-ups. Outside my office window, the street was ordinary. Delivery truck double parked, a bike courier balancing patience and momentum, the sky a manageable gray. Inside, my chest felt like a drawer that had been slammed too hard and stuck. Predictable. I swallowed and typed back two words that tasted like paper. I understand. The typing dots appeared, vanished, returned. Another message. That's it? That's all you have to say? I stared at my reflection in the black stripe of my monitor. Hair back, simple gold studs, a blouse the color of quiet. Accountants are accused of many things, boring among them. But boring is what keeps the lights on and the wolves outside. I typed, yes, then set the phone face down as if I'd trapped a hornet under a glass. In the silence that followed, something sorted itself inside me, unhooking from an old, faithful narrative. Liam Carter, 31, a grin that worked like a backstage pass, a fondness for champagne and rooms full of mirrors. Liam who loved me when love meant dinner reservations and the easy math of two. Lately he'd been gazing over my shoulder at the next shiny thing, and I'd called it stress. Youth, a phase. The mind specializes in generous redrafts when the heart is behind schedule. He wanted speed. I understood. I just didn't expect him to choose the nearest booster rocket, which happened to be a person. I flipped the phone over again. Another ping. Don't contact me again. It was a mercy, in the sharp way painful things are. A line in the sand. He always did like to make clean cuts, so he wouldn't have to watch anything bleed. I opened the browser tab I never labeled, but always knew how to find. The business banking portal for Morrison & Kodu. I logged in. Two-factor authentication. Code to email. Code accepted. My fingers moved without trembling. It surprised me, the steadiness. 8 months earlier, I had done a different kind of steady thing. Vanessa Rossi, 29, a name the algorithm liked, high-gloss cheeks, an influencer consultant who promised to scale personal brands into empires, had been struggling. She called it a lull, rent behind, car payment overdue, the optics of success hungering for actual cash. She'd been Liam's ex before she became a problem in the present. I met her once in passing. Perfect nails, a perfume that arrived before she did. She and Liam maintained that baffling thing people call friendly history, which was really a set of open windows in a house you thought you'd locked. When she came to me asking for help, no, not asking, selling me an opportunity to invest in her rebound. My head shook while my heart took out its wallet. I told myself I was being kind to someone who mattered to someone I loved. I told myself she would be grateful and responsible. I added her as an authorized user on my business credit line. Only emergencies, I said. A month or two, tops. She smiled with teeth too white to be temporary and promised. Emergencies multiplied. The spa, apparently, had a disaster every week that cost $400 to address. Designer client meeting bags. 2 gyms, because one didn't align with her brand. Dinners so public you could tag the silverware. I watched the charges roll in like a parade that had borrowed my drums. My accountant's brain winced. My loyal heart apologized for it. None of that is what I thought about when I hovered over manage users. What I thought about was a Tuesday at 11:43 a.m., a man I loved calling me predictable, and a different woman who'd learned to live on the quiet, reliable animal of my credit. I clicked Remove Authorized User, Rossi, Vanessa. A dialog box asked if I was sure. I pressed yes. A second box asked if I wanted to decline all pending authorizations. I clicked the number. It opened a small list. Soul Cycle, Nouveau Brasserie, something labeled Glow Aesthetics, with a pre-authorization that had ambitions beyond its size. I pressed Decline All. Then, because the world still prefers to be spoken to by a human voice when money is at stake, I called the credit card company. I introduced myself, verified the dozen pieces of information that insist I am me, and said, as if reading a grocery list, I need to remove an authorized user from my business line, effective immediately, and decline any pending charges. The representative, soothing voice, trained calm, pulled up my account. Yes, Ms. Morrison, I see the user. We can process that. There are several pending transactions. Would you like those denied as well? Every single one. A pause. The kind that contains polite thoughts like, oof, done. You'll receive a confirmation email. Thank you. Afterwards, I sat with my hands folded, index finger pressed to index finger, like a cathedral trying to happen. Grief wasn't a flood. It was a glass of water that refused to tip. There would be waves later. For now, there was a desk, a door that fit its frame, and a life built on invoices that matched services rendered. The phone hummed again. I didn't flip it. A bee can find its way out if you don't give it a target. I opened a client file and typed 3 lines. Deleted 2. Rested my forehead on my knuckles. In the reflection of the screen, I saw not devastation, but air, space where something heavy had been living rent-free. I thought about Liam's last few months, his praise of motion for motion's sake, the way his sentences had been ending in ellipses as if to suggest options that didn't include me. I thought about Vanessa's captions. Build your dream. Don't apologize for your standards. I thought about the first night I let her swipe that card, how she assured me it was a bridge, not a habit. A soft knock at the door. Monica, my assistant, leaned in with the kind of care people reserve for rooms where something fragile might be on the floor. Everything okay? I considered lying. I considered crying. I chose inventory. The Q3 adjustments need final review, I said. And please forward me the Patterson Bakery files. I'll take them home. She lingered. Monica missed nothing. If you need me to run interference, she said gently, I can be meaner than I look. I know, I said, and managed a smile that didn't entirely belong to someone else. I'll be fine. When the door clicked shut, I let myself rewind, but only to the point that mattered. The decision wasn't revenge, it was accounting. A long-term liability reclassified as what it truly was, a loss. My phone buzzed, long, impatient. I turned it over. Not Liam, of course not. Vanessa. My card just got declined. There's a mistake. Fix it. The misspelling of urgency into entitlement. I could taste copper on my tongue, the metallic aftertaste of having been too patient with someone who thought my patience was a natural resource. I didn't respond. A minute later, I have a client lunch at noon. This is humiliating. Another. Answer me, Clara. Internal monologue can be cruel if you let it. Mine tried. I refused to narrate her panic into a lullaby. I set Do Not Disturb and watched the phone go quiet, like a lake with fish I no longer intended to feed. The first email came from the bank, tidy and complete, authorized user removed, pending charges declined. I filed it in a folder labeled Documentation. It felt like tucking a receipt into a ledger, a proof of what actually happened when the story was later misremembered. I returned to the spreadsheet. Numbers obeyed me. They always had. I adjusted a cell, carried a value, watched negative space transform under black ink decisions. The day progressed hour by hour, predictable as a metronome, a client consult, 2 amended returns, a lunch eaten from a container, a small victory over a formula that refused to drag properly across columns C through M. At 5:30, I shut down the office. The glass in the front door threw my reflection back at me. Woman, intact. On the sidewalk, the ordinary remained heroic. A couple arguing softly about groceries, a child laughing at a dog, the dog preoccupied with a leaf. I stood for a moment inside that moving picture and felt a low, steady current. Dignity. It didn't roar. It hummed like a reliable appliance. Back in my apartment, I took a single box from the hall closet and set it near the door. It wasn't for Liam. He'd taken his talent for vanishing with him. It was for bearings, objects that had drifted into my life and would need returning. A scarf that wasn't mine, a book I didn't love, a debt of attention I had been paying on someone else's timeline. On my kitchen counter, a square of sunlight had cooled into evening. I wrote Saturday, 10 to 11 a.m. on a sticky note and pressed it to the box. I wasn't sure yet if I would send the message to Vanessa. I wasn't sure what I owed to the idea of being polite to someone who called theft branding. But I recognized the comfort in contingency plans. Predictable, I thought, and almost laughed. In the bathroom, I washed my face and found two expressions I recognized: a woman taking care of herself and a woman discovering that care includes subtraction. I turned off the lights. The city breathed. My phone, on the nightstand, stayed dark. From the hallway, the box waited like a punctuation mark I wouldn't place until morning. I lay down and let the silence finish its sentence. When it did, I whispered into the room what I hadn't said to either of them. Let's see how success survives without a sponsor. By Wednesday morning, my phone was a nest of messages. Each notification came like a knock on the door I had already locked. Vanessa, my card got declined at SoulCycle. Fix it. Vanessa, this isn't funny, Clara. I have a client lunch at noon. Vanessa, are you seriously doing this right now? Vanessa, the bank says I'm not authorized anymore. You can't do this. There was a time when I would have apologized for things I didn't do wrong, when I would have opened the app, checked balances, and found a way to make someone else's chaos fit neatly into my spreadsheet. That time ended yesterday. Instead, I silenced my phone, slipped it into the drawer, and went back to reconciling invoices. The numbers were obedient, comforting, loyal in a way people rarely are. By 10, I'd received an email from the bank confirming her account termination. By 11, Monica appeared in my doorway holding 2 coffees and a hesitant expression. She's here, she whispered. I looked up. Who? Monica's eyebrows arched. You know who. From the hallway came the sharp rhythm of high heels hitting marble, the kind of sound designed to make an entrance. Vanessa Rossi walked into my office lobby as if she were stepping onto a runway. White coat, gold hoops, sunglasses big enough to double as shields. She didn't remove them when she started speaking. I need to talk to Clara, she said, voice already rising. Monica stepped between her and my door. Ms. Morrison's with a client. I am her client, Vanessa snapped. She's been managing my finances. Monica, professional to her bones, smiled thinly. Then you should have an appointment. I don't need one. She cut off my card, illegally. A few heads turned from the cubicles. My staff tried to pretend they weren't listening, but you could feel the stillness in the air, the kind that comes right before glass breaks. I rose quietly and shut my office door. Through the frosted glass, Vanessa's outline moved like a storm cloud. I heard Monica's calm repetition. You'll need to schedule a consultation. Then the sound of security being called. Vanessa's voice cracked high enough to rattle the glass. She's ruining my life. The words hit something in me I didn't expect. An echo of guilt I thought I'd turn to dust. But guilt doesn't evaporate, it migrates. When the noise finally faded, Monica came back in, a hint of sympathy softening her eyes. She's gone. I had to call Ben from security. He escorted her out. Thank you, I said, and my voice was steady. You okay? Yes, just predictable. Monica hesitated, then smiled sadly. Predictable's underrated. The rest of the day moved like wet sand. Each task required effort. Every email felt heavier than it should. Around 5, my phone buzzed again. This time with a name I hadn't seen since Christmas. Diane Rossi, Vanessa's mother. I hesitated before answering, then pressed accept. Clara, sweetheart, Diane began, her tone sweetened with a mother's practiced charm. I just got off the phone with Vanessa. She's absolutely hysterical. She says you stole her credit cards. No, Diane, I said evenly. I removed her as an authorized user from my business credit line. Those cards were never hers. But she has bills to pay, her apartment, her car. She's 30 years old, I replied. She can pay them herself. Silence hummed through the receiver. Then, softly, That's cruel, Clara, after everything she's done for you. That made me laugh, quietly, but it was a laugh all the same. What exactly has she done for me? She elevated your image, Diane said quickly. Introduced you to important people, gave you visibility online. Diane, I interrupted gently. She introduced me to people who think influence is a currency and hard work is a PR problem. I don't need visibility. I need integrity. Another silence, then, I'll tell her you said that. Please do, I said and hung up. When the call ended, the office felt cleaner somehow, quieter. By that evening, I began to sense the tremors of Vanessa's next move. My business Instagram, usually a quiet hub of tax tips and small business success stories, started receiving comments from unfamiliar accounts. Wow, never trust a woman who hides behind spreadsheets. Financial abuser alert. You ruined her career, you jealous hag. A few clicks led me to the source. Vanessa had posted a long, performative caption with a black and white selfie, eyes red, hand clutching a coffee mug that read Boss Energy. When women help build men, or in this case, older women trying to own you, Don't let them use money to keep you trapped. Hashtag toxic relationships. Hash narcissistic abuse. Hash stronger without you. She'd tagged my company. Tagged me. The comments were a choir of sympathy and venom. Her followers believed her story, as they always had. Truth doesn't trend well. But karma, like accounting, prefers receipts. By morning, I had several. Mrs. Patterson, one of my longest-standing clients, texted me a screenshot of the post. Beneath Vanessa's dramatics, Mrs. Patterson had commented, "Interesting. So she financially abused you by removing you from a business credit line? Sweetheart, that's called fraud." The post disappeared within an hour. That night, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine and the satisfaction that only quiet vindication can bring. The city hummed beneath me, unaware of the small victory unfolding in a single accountant's inbox. Vanessa wanted an audience. I wanted peace. The difference between us was simple. She performed for validation. I documented for proof. Tomorrow would bring escalation. It always does when entitlement meets resistance. But tonight, I let the wind run its fingers through my hair and thought, not for the first time, that predictable doesn't mean powerless. It means ready. And I was. By Saturday morning, the city was glazed in that deceptive calm before something goes wrong. I had slept, not well, but enough to pretend I had. On the kitchen counter sat a cardboard box, folded, taped, labeled Vanessa. Inside were designer clothes I never understood, half-used cosmetics, 2 unread self-help books, and the glossy vision board she'd left leaning against my wall months ago. Words like manifest, abundance, and luxury partnerships were cut from magazines, edges curling. At 9:55 a.m., I set the box outside my apartment door, predictable to the minute. At 10:03, the elevator dinged, and there she was. Vanessa, sunglasses again, though the hallway was dim. Her best friend Jasmine followed, face tight with loyalty and hesitation. Behind them, a man I didn't recognize, tall, polished, designer watch catching light, carried himself like he'd practiced the part of supportive boyfriend. Vanessa's smile was surgical. "Clara," she said, voice clipped. "This is Adrian, my new boyfriend. He actually appreciates ambition." I nodded at the box. "Your things are there." Adrian stepped forward, puffing up his chest. "You should be ashamed treating a woman like this." I met his gaze evenly. Which part, exactly? The part where I covered her bills for 8 months, or the part where I stopped when she ended our arrangement? Vanessa's chin tilted higher. "Don't engage with her, baby. She's just bitter." Jasmine crossed her arms, interjecting with performative outrage. "Val says you owe her 3 months of severance for cutting her off without notice." That startled a laugh from me. Quiet, but genuine. "Severance? Was she my employee?" "You made her dependent on you," Jasmine snapped. "She structured her whole life around your support." "That sounds," I said, my voice cooling, "like her problem, not mine." Vanessa's cheeks flushed red beneath the foundation. "I'm consulting a lawyer. What you did is financial abuse. I have receipts showing you paid for things." "Receipts," I echoed, "showing you used my business credit line for personal spending." "Please do show those to a lawyer. I'm sure they'll love the phrase unauthorized charges." Adrian looked between us, clearly recalculating his role. "Look, just give her what she deserves, and we'll leave." "She already got it," I said. "Nothing." Jasmine's jaw tightened. Vanessa's eyes shone with the first glint of panic under anger. Still, she clung to pride like a brand deal that hadn't been canceled yet. "You'll regret this, Clara," she hissed. "I have influence. I'll destroy your reputation." "Then you'll be very busy," I said. She grabbed the box, heels scraping against tile as she stormed toward the elevator. The doors slid shut, sealing her away with her own echo. I stood still for a long moment. Then I laughed quietly, not cruelly, just tiredly. It wasn't satisfaction. It was relief, shaped like irony. Monday morning proved that Vanessa kept her promises, even the reckless ones. My business Google listing had 6 one-star reviews. Unprofessional, mixed personal and business relationships. Avoid. Financial predator posing as a CPA. Treated my friend horribly. Don't trust her with your money. Her phrasing was dramatic, but her timing was poor. Accounting reviews are verified against client records. None matched. Within 48 hours, the reviews disappeared one by one. Flagged, investigated, erased. But Vanessa didn't stop there. By Wednesday, I received an email from the state accounting board. The subject line was sterile. Complaint number 9821. Review required. My chest tightened for the first time since the breakup. I opened it. The complaint alleged that I had used my professional position to manipulate and control an associate through financial dependence. I called the listed investigator immediately. His tone carried the fatigue of a man who'd seen stranger stories. Ms. Morrison, he said, between you and me, this one seems unusual, but we need to follow procedure. I understand, I said. I'll provide documentation. I sent him everything. Bank statements, the authorization form with Vanessa's signature, text messages showing her breakup, the termination timestamp from my credit portal. It took less than a day for him to reply. Thank you, he wrote. We're closing this as unfounded. Please let us know if there are further issues. I didn't smile until I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Documentation, once again, was my armor. Still, I knew what came next. People like Vanessa didn't just burn bridges. They lit fireworks over the ashes to make sure everyone looked. That Friday, she posted again. This time, not about me directly, but with enough insinuation to invite speculation. A photo of her crying in her car, captioned, "When they weaponize professionalism to punish independence, but queens rebuild, always." The irony wasn't lost on me. She called herself a queen while trying to reclaim a throne made of credit debt. Her followers rallied, fewer now, maybe half of what they once were, offering hearts and "stay strong, babe" comments. But beneath the sympathy, the cracks had begun. Someone asked where her sponsorship deals went. Another noticed her car in the background of the photo, the same car a repo company had just listed for auction online. The collapse was coming, slowly, publicly, beautifully. That weekend, Monica dropped by my apartment with takeout and a single line that made me laugh until I almost cried. "You're trending on her page," she said, "as the villain. Congratulations. That's better exposure than a paid ad." I poured us wine. Let her run the campaign. I've already audited the ending. We toasted, not to revenge, to equilibrium. Because for the first time in months, I felt it returning, that quiet balance between heart and head. And if Vanessa wanted to keep performing, that was fine. Some stories collapse on their own. All you have to do is stop financing the stage. 2 weeks later, I arrived at my office early, the kind of gray morning that makes the city feel like a photograph that hasn't finished developing. Monica was already there, clutching a paper bag and a knowing look. "Hazelnut croissant," she said, sliding it onto my desk. "You'll need sugar for this one." I frowned. What happened now? She turned her phone toward me. On the screen was a screenshot of Vanessa's latest post, a close-up selfie, mascara streaked artfully down her cheeks, captioned, "When you try to rebuild but your abuser keeps sabotaging you, some people will do anything to keep a woman small." I didn't even feel anger anymore, just fatigue. "She's really running the word abuse into the ground," I murmured. Monica shrugged. At least she tagged the wrong accounting firm this time. That made me laugh, which felt like progress. Still, the situation wasn't over. An hour later, my lawyer, David, called. "You're going to love this," he said in that dry tone lawyers reserve for ridiculous news. "We've received a letter from a Mr. Theodore Benson Escuro." The name sounded like a stage alias for someone who sold life insurance out of a storage unit. "Let me guess," I said. "He's representing Vanessa?" "Indeed. His letterhead looks homemade. The demands are, well, creative." Papers rustled as he read. 1, 3 months of transitional support at $8,000 per month. 2, $15,000 in emotional damages. 3, a written apology for financial manipulation. 4, restoration of credit card access. "Restoration," I repeated. "To a canceled business account?" "Oh, it gets better," David said. He cites something called unspoken financial partnership law. I'm not even sure that exists outside his imagination. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Please handle it." "With pleasure," he said, chuckling. "My reply will be a masterpiece." And it was. He drafted a letter so concise and cutting that it should have been framed. It outlined the facts. Authorized user status is revocable at any time. Vanessa had no ownership claim. Her own text messages proved she ended the relationship. Any further harassment, the letter said, would result in a restraining order and potential countersuit for misuse of business funds. We never heard from Theodore Benson again. But Vanessa's spiral continued, now less like a strategy, more like gravity. Her online persona, once immaculate, began to fracture. The high-gloss filters couldn't hide the cracks. She'd gone from luxury unboxings to long captions about healing journeys and society's unfair expectations of ambitious women. Her follower count dropped daily. One night, I scrolled through her page out of morbid curiosity. The top post was a video, shaky, dim, filmed in a half-empty apartment. "I just want people to understand," she said through hiccuping sobs, "that when you build your life with someone and they take it all away, it's not just about money, it's about trust." Her comment section was split evenly between pity and skepticism. I didn't comment. I didn't even screenshot it. I just closed the app, set the phone down, and let silence win. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone self-destructing is to not give them an audience. 3 days later, Mrs. Patterson, one of my favorite clients, sent a package to the office. A box of sugar cookies shaped like calculators and hearts. Inside was a handwritten note. "For dealing with the crazy, you're doing great, honey." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the cookies. Then, as if the universe decided irony needed an encore, another email arrived. This one from the State Accounting Board again. My heart skipped until I opened it. "Ms. Morrison, following a recent inquiry, please disregard previous correspondence. Complaint withdrawn." Withdrawn. Vanessa had given up, at least on pretending to fight through legal channels. The stage lights were dimming. The final cracks came quickly after that. Jasmine, her ever-loyal friend, called me one afternoon. It was the first time we'd spoken directly. "Clara," she began awkwardly, "I just thought you should know. Vanessa's being evicted. She said you were still paying her rent." I closed my eyes, exhaled. "No, Jasmine, I stopped paying the moment she broke up with me." She can't afford it," Jasmine said, almost whispering. "Then she should probably get a job." A pause, then a soft click as the line disconnected. By Friday, Vanessa's car was repossessed. She live-streamed it, crying, shouting about systemic oppression while the repo man quietly loaded her SUV onto the truck. "Ma'am," he said patiently, "you haven't made a payment in 3 months." It was surreal, watching the woman who once curated every moment of her life now narrate her own undoing in real time. I didn't feel joy, not really, just a steady, melancholy awe, like watching a house you'd already moved out of finally collapse. That weekend, the phone rang again. "Clara," Diane's voice trembled. "She's moving back home. She's destroyed." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant it. "Are you?" Diane asked quietly. "You did this to her." "No, Diane," I said gently. "I stopped enabling her. There's a difference." Silence. Then, "She's talking about suing you for damages." "With what money?" The call ended there. I sat on my couch for a long time afterward, staring at the city lights through the window, each one a small, predictable pulse, and for the first time in months, I felt something simple and unadorned: peace. Because the truth had a rhythm of its own. You didn't need to amplify it, post about it, or decorate it with hashtags. It just waited. Then, eventually, it spoke for itself. 2 months passed before I saw her again. It was a Tuesday, as if fate wanted to keep everything perfectly symmetrical. The same day of the week she'd been cut off. The same quiet hour when life likes to fold in on itself and finish unfinished business. I was at a coffee shop downtown, mid-meeting with a new client. He ran a local architecture firm, the kind of man who spoke softly but carried blueprints instead of ego. As he stepped away to take a call, I caught a familiar profile near the corner table by the window. Vanessa? She was dressed differently. Plain jeans, a wrinkled white blouse, hair pulled back into a low ponytail. No designer bag, no staged coffee art, no phone angled for content. For a moment, I didn't recognize her. Then I noticed the notebook open on the table, pages filled with scribbled notes. Across from her sat a man in a suit, mid-40s, reading from a printout. An interview. Something in me softened. Not pity exactly, something quieter. The recognition that reality, though unkind, was fair. She looked up. Our eyes met. For one heartbeat, the air went still. Then color rose to her cheeks, fast and sharp. She looked down again, pretending to write. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I walked out, the bell above the door chiming like punctuation. That night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Hi, Clara. It's Vanessa. I saw you today. I was interviewing for an entry-level marketing position at Coleman Tech. I know you probably won't believe this, but I get it now. What you were trying to tell me about earning things. I didn't deserve your help, or how I treated you. I'm sorry. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I locked my phone and placed it face down. Not out of malice, out of mercy. Some apologies are meant to exist only in the air, not in replies. 2 mornings later, my office phone rang. "Clara!" Mrs. Patterson's cheerful voice practically danced through the receiver. "You'll never believe this. That girl who harassed you? Vanessa? She applied for a social media position at my main bakery." I closed my eyes, a small smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. "You're kidding." "Oh, I'm not. Her resume said she managed high-value accounts and had experience in financial oversight." Mrs. Patterson's tone was equal parts amusement and outrage. "So, of course I Googled her. Found all those deleted posts, the ones where she admitted to using your business credit for personal spending. Let's just say we won't be calling her back." I laughed softly. "You didn't have to do that." "Oh, honey," she said warmly. "I wanted to." When the call ended, I sat back in my chair and let the moment settle. The universe doesn't always deliver justice with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly, through a voicemail, a small-town bakery owner, or a resume written by someone finally humbled enough to apply for an entry-level job. My life after Vanessa became beautifully uneventful. Predictable, some might still say. I went to work, paid bills, cooked dinner, and watched the sky change color through my office window. But it didn't feel like monotony anymore. It felt like ownership. There was a man, eventually, Ryan, a nurse at a nearby clinic, the kind of man who listens more than he talks, who thinks a perfect Friday night is homemade pasta and a streaming queue that actually ends before midnight. He doesn't post about manifesting abundance. He just shows up, on time, with takeout, sometimes flowers, always sincerity. The first night he cooked for me, he looked around my apartment, calm, neutral, warm, and said, "You live like someone who likes peace." "I do," I replied. "It's underrated." He smiled. "Not to me." Now, when I think about Vanessa, I don't feel bitterness, just understanding. Some people need to lose everything to finally see what they had, or what they were borrowing. I kept her apology text for a while, unread. Then one evening, while cleaning out old files, I deleted it. A quiet, final act of bookkeeping. Before I closed the laptop, I opened one last document, a personal one I keep hidden between work folders. A list titled Lessons in Predictability. At the bottom, I added, "Predictable isn't boring. It's the rhythm of a life you don't have to survive." I saved the file, closed the screen, and exhaled. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. Steady, measured, utterly reliable. And for the first time in a long time, that word, predictable, felt like the highest form of peace.